If I could, Chair, I'd like to extend our time to 12:45.
That's fine, but I'm leaving at 12.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Just so, yes, sir. Thank you. But
I understand.
Yes,
I understand.
We have a motion by Councilman Suarez to extend to 12:45, a second by Councilman Maniscalco.
Can we have discussion since we're losing two? Are we planning on going all the way through to finish, or?
I don't think we're going to get through the rest of the agenda, Councilman Cohen, because we do have a review hearing after this.
Okay.
So I would suggest that either we handle this one item now and then come back after lunch, or go work all the way through, which would probably take us to 2. So my guess is people want to eat lunch.
Well, I'm fine with either. I just want to hear, since we've got a lot left, I just wanted to hear.
And I'm fine with either also.
Okay.
I'm favored of just hearing 171. They've been here very patient since
Right.
9 o'clock in the morning, so I'll listen to this one, then I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go to lunch.
Let me ask you, if you resume, what time you coming back up? So I know. I just got to get to engagement.
2:30.
Well, I think that if we get through 12:45, if we get back at 2 o'clock, would probably be, to finish the rest of the agenda, would probably be reasonable.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to say I think we should say 2:30 because you know that we're gonna run long on this. So let's say 2:30.
Okay.
All right. So now this is first reading. There is a second reading. Thank you.
So he has a motion to extend time.
Oh, that's
To
right.
12:45,
Let's vote
yeah.
on that. All in favor to extend the time to 12:45?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. We move item 71.
If I could, Chair, Mr. Schmidt, are you available to discuss the ordinance? There you go. Mr. Schmidt, if you could explain what we're doing here with this ordinance and what the effects are going to be in terms of some of the things we're doing.
Good afternoon, City Council. Mike Schmidt, Assistant City Attorney, here on agenda item 71 concerning the regulation and relating to bathhouses. As you know, we've been working on this for quite
Mr. Schmidt, one moment, please. If anyone heard this discussion, we're going to finish this item and then we're coming back at 2:30. So if you have anything pertaining after this, you're coming back at 2:30. We're not going to continue past 12:40 or till we finish this one. Okay? Thank you. I'm sorry. I apologize for interrupting you. Please.
No problem. As you know, we've been working on this for approximately, I would say, 6 months with relating to this agenda item. City Council has been considering the issues that this addresses, obviously, for much longer, even years. And so what legal was asked to do was to look into whether or not there was any ordinances that could be drafted to help strengthen human trafficking and to address issues of concerning illicit activities that are ongoing at some of these businesses. Specifically, there have been numerous businesses up and down Kennedy that have been a concern of the public and of City Council and of law enforcement. Obviously, City Council has heard from Department of Health, who's come and presented testimony before City Council. We've heard from numerous citizens. We've provided documentation with regards to how the state regulates currently a lot of businesses in the state of Florida. But one of the things that we have learned is that there are specific businesses and locations that aren't currently regulated by the state, and this ordinance seeks to provide a permitting process, regulation, and enforcement process to allow for the city to permit, regulate, and enforce an ordinance concerning bathhouses. Specifically, the ordinance defines bathhouse, and bath technician, so that they should all be looked at together in total. And when you look at that, what we are regulating in this ordinance would be areas, businesses where somebody would go in and a bath would be offered to be provided to them where somebody wants to wash the human torso. As we have heard through testimony and concerns, this is one way that some of these places have been operating in order to try to get around solicitation of prostitution. So we believe that this is one step at addressing that issue. to help law enforcement, to help the city regulate this area so that we can best address some of these issues. And hopefully going forward, this will just be one step in a overall picture to ferret out concerns that the city has with enforcement and regulating this area.
Great. Thank you. Anything else? Any questions? No? Thank you. Anyone in the public wish to address us on item 71, please stand now. How many are you? Okay. We have this contract, just came back. What I'm going to ask council is it's going to be 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes.
2 minutes?
I'm going to ask council because we got this contract. I'm not going to this stuff. And we're not, this is first reading, and this is legislative. This is non-quasi.
If I can make a suggestion, Chair, it
Yes.
looks like right now we have 5, 6, 7, 8 people, I believe, 9. I'm just trying to count. Looks like 9 people currently. So I think it's up to the chair if you want to go 2 minutes. I'm not sure. Hopefully we'll have enough time to get to where we're going to be even with 2 minutes. So I don't know what the rest of the council wants to do.
No, I'm asking that we limit the public comment to 2 minutes because of time constraint. And we just got this contract back to move on. And unless we're going to move on it after 2:30.
Well, Chair, I think that it's going to be determined by the time. I mean, my preference would be to leave it at 3 minutes because that's what was set prior.
Then we'll come back to the
then we can
contract
come
at
back with
2:30.
the contract.
Okay,
yeah.
great. That's
Those guys
fine.
are getting paid
So
by the
we'll
hour
keep-
anyway.
Okay. You all been very patient. We'll keep it at 3 minutes. Please, start.
Chair.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. I'm Joseph Manson, the founder of Clean Up Kennedy and a member of the community here in Tampa. Today we're not deciding if prostitution should be legal or not. Today we're deciding to go forward with an expert-backed plan that places safeguards to protect workers and patrons in our city businesses that we now classify as bathhouses. There's little to no debate that there is illegal activity going on inside of these places that purport to be spas or massage establishments. We all remember Ocean Spa back in 2013. Tampa police say that massage business facilitated sex trafficking. We have headlines like that, and headlines like local business owners say that they've seen girls as young as 11 wearing lingerie on the spa's porch. And other headlines, Tampa spa raided for prostitution, building owner unaware. In this incident that happened back in 2013, we had our chief of police, Jane Castor, saying human trafficking is a modern form of slavery as she addressed a crowd in front of the Henderson building. These aren't the kind of headlines we want to have coming out about Tampa. The fantasy that some have created that these illicit massage businesses that are operating on Kennedy Boulevard and across the city are some sort of immigrant, small family business, minority business that are just struggling to survive in our oppressive city are just that. This is total fantasy. The truth is these businesses rake in hundreds of thousands of dollars each year and are part of multi-state and sometimes multinational crime syndicates. If you're looking for true oppression, look no further than the mafia control apparatus that has the bosses raking in millions of dollars and forces the women to work 18, 14-hour days and to sleep inside of these storefronts along Kennedy while they get little to no pay and every single aspect of their life is controlled. Any lawful business venture that falls within these regulations should be able to become compliant to the new regulations with minimal effect on their bottom line. This ordinance targets the businesses that are doing illegal and exploitative things inside of their businesses. And those businesses will have to make the decision on whether to shut down and leave our city, which is what we like, or to face the punishment. I've heard that people say that this doesn't do enough to stop sex trafficking. in our city. And I wish the people in this room had the power to identify, capture, prosecute, and punish to the full extent of the law every single human trafficker in here. But we don't have that power, unfortunately, in this room. What the council does have is the power to create a business atmosphere in Tampa that will you guys know what you're going to do.
I will be leaving now, and will probably not be able to make it back until 3:30 or so. So if we're still in session, I'll be here. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to continue with public comment.
Mentes 9. This city council wastes the
Can you have
taxpayer.
your name for the record, please?
Mentes 9.
Go ahead.
This city council wastes taxpayers' time and money. We've seen they just wasted a bunch of time with some developers, people that's spending $120 million. You have someone that's on the clock, that's hardly even on the clock, that can't come to work in time, trying to tell them how to spend their money because of a design, and if they like the design or they don't like the design. And then we see how they have no respect for the citizenry, because the first thing they say when this issue came up, I want to cut the time back to 2 minutes. And they wasting the taxpayers' time talking about massage parlors, bath parlors. It is racist. What he said made a bunch of sense. The white man saying it's not racist. It is racist. And it identifies a certain group of people they like to attack. It's enough laws in the book to control any business, any resident, anything. Any person walking, any person on bicycles, hundreds of thousands of bicycle stops in the black community. It is racist. It's very racist. It's enough rules and regulations to control what goes on inside any business, period. If you go in, you see illegal activity, control that illegal activity. Do something about it. Remember lap dancing? It's the same way the city council was wasting people's time on lap dancing, who can get a lap dance or not. And they back at it again, polarizing the community and wasting taxpayers' time. Nothing more and nothing less. That's what they're doing. And they identify people, they identify poor and working class people, they identify certain ethnicities that they want to go after. Every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday, it's hundreds of thousands of people that gather, millions of individuals that gather in stadiums and watch individuals get head and body injury, playing football. If there's some illegal activity going on in what they call a bathhouse, in some other type of place, TPD got all the resources to go in there and deal with it. But don't try to identify people and be racist about it and then be proactive and say it's nothing racist about it and run that game. And we see over and over again, this city council wastes people's time. They waste the taxpayers' time. And today was a good demonstration of that. 2 hours telling somebody how they're going to design a building. Bucko ain't going to have the last say one way or another. Because y'all ain't got no power and y'all don't do nothing in this city.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Glenn Kemp. I own and operate Performance Massage at 2115 South Del Mabry Highway. I've been a licensed massage therapist for over 20 years in the city of Tampa. This is a problem. Sex and massage don't mix at all. We're licensed healthcare providers. This is not a personal service. But there's a lot of confusion. In the 40s, tons of GIs came here before they departed to go to war. And I guess things happened and it brought the sex industry here because something wanted to happen before they left. And it's still here. And it's popularized. When we were in the Super Bowl, they talk about our adult industry here in Tampa. It's embarrassing. There's a huge distinction between the two, but I'm worried about hydrotherapy. Now, we work on top-ranked athletes, professional athletes, Olympic athletes. We had clients last year, one won 3 gold medals, another 2. So it's all different tiers of massage. So don't put us all together, please. Please. Hydrotherapy involves hot or cold treatments or the use of water to soak an injury. We give free Epsom salts to anyone that asks. Soaking increases circulation. So you're talking about massage, but what you're really talking about is affecting people at the cellular level when it comes to massage and other soft tissues. It's that simple. So when you're regulating this thing, are you saying how I can and cannot treat someone as a trained, experienced, licensed healthcare provider? That needs to be your concern. Getting the sex out has to be done. There is trafficking. These things are horrible and deplorable and should never be a part of our landscape. Now, as the past president of the Tampa Bay chapter of the Florida State Massage Therapy Association, we worked to get these people to clarify what they did. Mostly they weren't even putting their MA massage number in their ads or their establishment number in their ads as well. So we need to clear things up. And lately we've had horrible reports on the news of big chains where they had sexual improprieties, and these places tried to talk their clients out of filing a formal complaint and keeping things in-house. That's illegal. The state of Florida requires if there's a complaint against the therapist report to the board. If the complaint is against the establishment must, without choice, report that complaint to the board. Guys, we need our rules enforced. And please, when it comes to the hydrotherapy part of it, think about the people that work with accident rehab victims, with people that work, like the people in my place, we average about 20 years of experience apiece. We've been doing this a long time. So hot and cold has a big effect on the healing process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next. Ladies and gentlemen, please come up one after another.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Natalie Keene, and I'm with the U.S. Institute Against Human Trafficking. Our headquarters is located here in Tampa, but we are a national organization, faith-based and nonprofit. Our goal is to end human trafficking in the nation, and we have the first safe home that we know of that houses boys. And it's right here in our Tampa Bay area, as well as working with Pasco County on a program called Trafficking Free Zone that is to end the demand in that county. So we're very excited to be here. And we want to thank you for your dedication and for the leadership that you've taken on to tackle human trafficking, and for working towards protecting those who have no voice and cannot even be here today to tell their story. It's hard to imagine how some of us would even get caught in something like that. So I'm about to read a story from a survivor that luckily found refuge in an organization in New York City that specializes in restoring and empowering female foreign nationals who have been victims of sex trafficking. This organization has served over 1,300 women that we know of, or clients, to this date, with 70% of them being Asian or Chinese. Many of these women have come out of illicit massage businesses just like the ones that we're discussing today. So the names and some of the details have been changed in the story I'm about to briefly read to you to, of course, protect the person involved. This is about Jin's story. I typically don't get off at work at the massage parlor until 11 p.m. Many times I'm just starving, and sometimes other workers leave me just some food and grapes or an egg. I don't even have money to buy any food, so I collected bottles of recyclables to sell. I can make $10 per bag, but my boss didn't even want me to put the big trash bags near the parlor, so he yelled at me. I found this parlor through the job board at a local Chinese grocery store. It said that they would train me, so I applied, and when I showed up, they just took my ID and told me to go to work. Sometimes the customers tried to assault me sexually. The first customer I ever worked with, I served him for an hour. I just did massage. Usually the customer is just face down. But suddenly after an hour, I told the customer, 1 hour finished, only 15 minutes more, and he turned around and asked me to give him a happy ending. I told him no, only massage. The customer got upset and said no more, and I didn't get any tip for the work. That was the first time. There once was a customer waiting over 40 minutes. I got into the massage room and worked there for 10 minutes. The customer turned face up and said, "No, don't look at me." The customer, and so it goes on, but she finally says, "But one day the police came and arrested everyone. I was brought to court and to Restore. Before Restore, I didn't know about my rights or how I would find work. Finding work is still hard, but I'm glad. So my hope is thank you for all of your efforts, and that we're going to hear these kind of stories from women here locally in our city going forward. So thank you for that.
Councilman, I'm Sarah Manson, and I'm going to read another survivor story. 5 years ago, Lou achieved her dream of starting a restaurant in China. But when it didn't take off as quickly as she had hoped, the debt started to pile up. As the restaurant was failing, she faced continued pressure from her abusive husband and a loan shark to find a solution. Lou searched for any option to earn additional money and to support her child. One of Lou's friends told her of a woman who had moved to New York City and found a well-paying, short-term work right away. Lou, desperate to solve her situation, decided to leave China and come to America, hopeful for a good job. But this job was part of a scam that would force Lou into human trafficking. When Lou arrived in New York City, she started working at a nail salon. She barely made enough money to pay for food and rent, had no extra income. A month into her new job, Lou's manager approached her with an enticing offer. She said, "I have a job for you at another business that I manage where you can take home $1,000 a week giving massages, no training necessary." Lou jumped at the opportunity to make extra money. She followed the address to a massage parlor in Midtown Manhattan where she arrived. It was a vacant apartment. She closed the door behind her and called the manager. "What am I supposed to do?" she said. "I'm the only one here." The manager told Lou, "Wait here, your customer will come." Lou's first customer arrived that evening. He held her at gunpoint, then sexually assaulted and raped her. This was Lou's first night as a sex slave. Nights like this are a reality for thousands of women across the country. When Lou again insisted on fleeing, the manager threatened to have her deported. The fear of deportation and shock from the rape and assault kept her in the apartment through the night, forced to serve a dozen more men. This was all on her first day. Over the next week, the manager's threats continued, and Lou was forced to serve customers repeatedly. After several days of this nightmare, she was determined to escape, and she fled, not telling anyone what happened to her. Shame and fear kept her silent. For Lou and many like her, America is a place where sexual violence against women is tolerated and stories of abuse are hidden. Survivors regularly tell the Restore It in New York City that they are promised a job but instead were assaulted and sold for sex. Traffickers' threats and coercion keep women fearful and silent while they continue to profit from the women they exploit. With your help, City Council, help us to end this human trafficking in our city.
Thank you. Next.
Morning, afternoon now, Council. My name is Jay Passmore. I'm here to speak about the Bathhouse Ordinance. First and foremost, I want to say that everyone here today is against human trafficking. Like I stated previously when I talked to councilmen, we need to look at helping victims, catching sex traffickers, and the harm in between getting to that space. This ordinance, though, sounds like it is good. Like I said, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and sometimes City Hall is too. When we look at the implications of this ordinance, it does not say anything to actually stop or catch sex traffickers, but it does criminalize marginalized communities that work in these jobs in these parlors on Kennedy. First and foremost, when we talk about a phrase, clean up Kennedy, you already put the implications that humans have to fight for humanity, for their human dignity. You know, when we talk about women and sexual assault, women of color are disproportionately targeted by sexual assault and violence in this country. So that is a huge issue. So we are advocating for sex traffickers to be dealt with. However, this ordinance, it goes on, you know, we just did a rights restoration campaign where we went around and we got 1.6 people the right to put on the ballot for the rights to get their voting rights restored, you know. But in this ordinance, when it says in order to work in these type of parlors, you have to have a permit. In order to get a permit, you can never have been arrested for obstruction of justice, which you can get for protesting, lewd and lascivious acts, which you can get for spitting on a police car. All these things that we are retroactively punishing and re-victimizing the people you're claiming to try to help and who could possibly potentially help you catch sex traffickers if they weren't afraid that they would be criminalized and arrested. You know, we're taking away opportunities from them without even addressing the real issues of what the sex traffickers are doing and where they're at. This ordinance needs some work. I am 100% dedicated in understanding that when City Council puts on tennis shoes and go out in the community, Councilman Vieira, you know what it's like to go out and talk to members of the community. I urge you to pass that along to your fellow councilmen and understand when you make this ordinance and you have no feedback from the communities that will be directly impacted, that leads to opening the door to creating unnecessarily and damaging harm to those individuals. So when you think this ordinance is an awesome idea and you read through line by line, you're not looking at it from the viewpoint of the people who will be directly impacted by it. Get out there and talk to them and talk to those people and say, how can I make this ordinance better to not just protect you, but catch the people who are creating these harms. And that's why I'm here today to say that this ordinance needs a lot of work. I'm behind the City Council and understanding that Tampa needs to be a safer place. I do not believe saying phrases like clean zones and clean up Kennedy is appropriate when we're talking about human dignity and life. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Sydney Eastman. I'm going to read because I'm not a good public speaker, but I'm here in grave opposition of the proposed Bathhouse ordinance. I grew up in South Tampa. I can recall vividly my white family and friends bragging about what a great place it was to live. We never go north of Kennedy or south of Gandy, they would always say. Kennedy was the imaginary line in the sand between the rich, privileged white families and everybody else in the Tampa Bay area. The socioeconomic disparities between the north and south sides is glaring. When I walked down Kennedy 2 nights ago, I saw the familiar landmarks from my childhood, such as the imposing Fox 13 building and the haunting Veterans Memorial, but a lot has changed here. Kennedy has gone from the line white people never cross to a booming small business district. Rich white patrons who look just like the Clean Up Kennedy folks are being served cuisine from around the world by people of color. I decided to take a walk down the road and actually talk to the folks this ordinance will impact. Knowing that Clean Up Kennedy's goal is to remove all Asian spas from the district by way of this ordinance, I stop in every parlor and spa I see on the way. As admitted to me by Attorney Schmidt, Maniscalco's aide, Mike Suarez, and Clean Up Kennedy, nobody's even tried speaking with these workers. Why? Spa after spa, I'm greeted by kind, friendly, working people of all ethnicities, backgrounds, ages, genders who are open to talking to me. All I had to do was walk in and listen to them. They explain the hardships they face already as workers in this business. The police illegally raiding their long-standing businesses on a regular basis, harassing, humiliating, and interrogating them and their clients. They must constantly prove to the police that their licenses are valid and that their papers are good, despite repeated raids and searches on them as individuals. And as I continued speaking with mothers who put their children through college here and workers who prosper here, I'm told again and again by licensed massage therapists that nobody from the city has ever consulted with them. I was told explicitly by a city attorney, Mike Schmidt, that this ordinance will not stop human trafficking. What is the reason for it then? What I saw overwhelmingly were working people, mothers, daughters, and elders who don't understand why, when they have their licenses and have been practicing massage for weeks or decades, they would even be targeted. To me, this is clear. This is not about targeting sex trafficking beyond the fact that this ordinance never actually talks about human traffickers. This is simply a move by the rich, white landowners to colonize more space in which people of color are prospering. I've never worked in a restaurant where I had to be regularly raided and interrogated to keep my job. If you really want to stop trafficking that could occur in these businesses, bring the actual community to the table. I didn't need to be multilingual, I didn't need to be aggressive, I didn't need to be invasive, I just had to listen to these people. Arresting victims, profiling workers, and forcing people who refuse to
Ma'am, your time's expired. Thank you.
Delay the vote and bring the community to the table.
Thank you very
Bottom
much.
line.
Is there anyone else that would like to address council? Yes, come up, please.
Hello. Before I begin, I have some things that I wanted to pass out to the remaining council members.
Okay, you need to talk to us from there.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Julie. I am an organizer and advocate for the rapidly growing Sex Worker Solidarity Network, and I am also a sex worker. I have worked in strip clubs for approximately 2 years now. The reason I am here today is because the network and our allies oppose the ordinance that the City Council intends to enforce upon massage parlors and bathhouses with the intent of combating human trafficking. I would like to begin addressing this issue by stating that the proposed ordinance negatively affects one of the most marginalized section of the working class, sex workers. So, how many months the Council has been working on drafting this ordinance, how this is the 11th hour, is irrelevant. The possible good intentions behind this ordinance are also irrelevant. To use law enforcement to further surveil an already stigmatized and marginalized community will only serve to shove it further underground and, as a result, further oppress trafficking victims and the consensual workers as well. This is a matter of their ethically required human rights. The law is not static and should be subject to change according to the will and need of the constituents whom these laws affect. It is our concern as well that perhaps this ordinance, as well as other impositions such as this that are already codified into law and their subsequent punitive measures, are ineffective, fueled by veiled moral puritanism and outright ignorance regarding the realities of the sex work community. To further expound upon and support our stance on this issue, I will quote excerpts from Amnesty International's official policy on the human rights of sex workers. Quote, it says, governments should protect, respect, and fulfill the rights of sex workers, including protecting them from harm, exploitation, and coercion, ensuring they can participate in the development of laws and policies that affect their lives and safety, guaranteeing access to health, education, and employment options. It also calls for decriminalization of sex work based on evidence that criminalization makes sex workers less safe by preventing them from securing police protection and by providing impunity to abusers. Criminalization of sex work can hinder the fight against trafficking. For example, victims may be reluctant to come forward if they fear the police will take action against them for selling sex. Where sex work is criminalized, sex workers are also excluded from workplace protections, which could increase oversight and help identify and prevent trafficking. Several anti-trafficking organizations, including Freedom Network USA, the Global Alliance Against Trafficking in Women, and La Strada International, believe that decriminalization of sex work would have a positive role to play in the fight against trafficking. End quote. We hope that if, at the very least, this ordinance can be delayed and some compassionate consideration can be made regarding the best interests of the people who are victims of trafficking and people within the sex work community at large. I ask that the council members listen to and understand what we are advocating for, and that they will subsequently understand what should be done to achieve real progress in ending victimization of those who are forcibly coerced and those who are not. Regardless, the network and our community of comrades will continue to grow, and with that will come even stronger solidarity and unionization. As a result of these facts, we will continue to move forward and push aggressively for radical change in legislation and societal consciousness, and we will not stop until equal protection under the law is achieved for every sex worker in the community and every victim of human trafficking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Devin Cheeves. I'm an organizer in the Tampa Bay area. I'm actually coming before you to read a letter from the Dr. Reverend Russell Meyer, who's the director over the Florida Council of Churches. And he writes, Dear Tampa City Council members, you have before you a proposed ordinance on regulating bathhouses. After reviewing the proposal, I urge you not to proceed with it as it is. The resolution introducing the ordinance refers repeatedly to addressing human trafficking and naming human trafficking as an intolerable evil. In that, I concur in the strongest possible terms. But the ordinance does not address human trafficking at all. This cognitive dissonance cannot go unchallenged. By failing to pursue the criminality of trafficking and also by criminalizing the victims of trafficking, the proposed ordinance makes a mockery of sincere efforts that do address trafficking. To be clear, there are ways by which human trafficking can be successfully addressed. Aggressive policing of the clients and the marketers in the sex trade, the Johns and the pimps, has an immediate impact on disrupting sex trafficking. Also, businesses that have a pattern of permitting sex trafficking to occur on their premises can be closed. However, harassing and criminalizing the victims of sex trafficking does not curtail the trade, which is what the proposed ordinance does. It does target victims. That is not morally acceptable. As a pastor, and I'm just interjecting, I'm actually the daughter of a pastor myself. As a pastor, I've preached sermons on Jesus' redeeming of tax collectors and prostitutes. The Bible understands well that the impoverishment of women and widows forces them to sell their bodies. They are victims of economic conditions beyond their means and ability to overcome. These persons deserve our sympathy and support to help them heal and rise beyond the conditions rather than rendering them unemployable or imprisoned. Moreover, in targeting bathhouses and massage parlors, this proposed ordinance fails to appreciate and understand traditional services from Asian and other cultures. It is this failure to appreciate other cultures' practices that makes its trained practitioners open to victimization and criminalization. The misunderstanding of their culture makes them easy prey for human traffickers. Points of intersection theory suggests that like business which cluster together generate greater success for all. We see that so often with fast food restaurants. It's understandable that a clustering of businesses from a different culture in a neighborhood that once prided itself as the jewel of local culture might upset those who wish to preserve the markets of the past. Racism. Preserving the past is not easily possible. Across the city of Tampa, numerous business districts have experienced transformation. Now Kennedy Boulevard is undergoing transition. Rather than misspending tax dollars on aggressive policing of massage parlors and bathhouses, the city should focus on disrupting the human traffickers and developing an economic plan where the new culturally based business can feel at home while helping transitioning neighborhoods draw the kinds of businesses considered desirable.
Thank you very much. All right, next. And whoever else is waiting to address us on this topic, just please identify yourself so we know how many are left. Thanks. Yes,
Hi,
go ahead.
my name is Krista Hernandez, and I am a survivor of sex trafficking right here in this community of 20 years. And I'm a white girl. And I'm also the founder and executive director of Loving You Where You Are At. First, I want to thank you for looking into the bath ordinance and making changes and buttoning things up. First, I want to be clear, I'm not believing in anything that I read that we are trying to in any way criminalize the women who are being forced to work in these places. As a matter of fact, part of our city's restoration program includes expungement of criminal records for human trafficking victims and a pathway to citizenship. I know that some of the women that are here are pro-sex work, and I understand that, they believe it's okay. But recently, they posted a slideshow. This is their little image that says, someone I love is a sex worker, sex work feeds families, decriminalize sex work now, and so on. But in that same slideshow, we see where they are Desiree Robinson, 15 years old, December 24, 2016, Chicago, Illinois, lost her life, but they're pro-sex work. We see Kiana Jackson, 20 years old, last seen October 21st, 2017. But they're saying that they're in remembrance of them, but they're pro-sex work. These are girls that are dying. Martha Anaya, 28 years old, last seen November 28th, 2017. Sable Pickett, 19 years old, murdered by a serial killer in Anaheim, California. Brittany Taylor, 19 years old, May 25th, 2017. And I could go on with pictures of women that they are in remembrance of, but they are also claiming pro-sex work, that it's not a problem. It is a problem. I don't see anywhere in this ordinance where you're trying to say people can't voluntarily walk into a strip club and work. What I see this ordinance is taking care of the illegal massage parlors, the illegal lingerie shops, the places that are disguised as aromatherapy shops, where we know for a fact these women are being trafficked. We do go and reach in to these places. We go to these brothels and we speak to these women every month, and we take them gifts and we sit down and we build relationships with them. So we have been in there. We do know their struggles, and we do know what's going on behind those closed doors. I worked in one right down the street. It is a brothel, and human trafficking is happening, and women are being sold.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. And what I can see, this is our final speaker in public comment.
That's correct. First, I want to say thank you. We've been here for the 6 months while you've been going through this. It's a difficult process to write ordinances and to make laws. Just point of clarity, this is a City of Tampa ordinance. It applies to all of City of Tampa. It does not apply to just Kennedy Boulevard, just to keep the record clear. It is not a criminal statute. It is an ordinance. It doesn't have the ability to be arrested for a misdemeanor or a felony. And the point of this, and all the meetings we've had the last 6 months, because you've all been at all of them, in addition to that, is to find a way to restore and get these women free from human trafficking in these facilities. These illicit spas in particular have been identified nationwide as criminal trafficking schemes. And we need to stop that as much as we can in Tampa. No ordinance, nobody, this whole room working together can't stop human trafficking. It's going to take an entire community, entire state, an entire country to stop human trafficking. But this is the first step in that journey, of 1,000 miles. We've got to start somewhere, and you're doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can we have your name for the record, please?
Doug Manson.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else to address council on this issue only, item number 71, before we move on to council discussion?
I have a brief objection.
No, there are no objections at this point. Thank you. Council members, what is your pleasure? Councilman Suarez.
If I could, I'd like to make a quick statement and then read the ordinance, if I may. We've heard from a lot of people over the last 6 months, and actually it's longer than that. We started about 5 years ago. I had a couple of women approach me about changing some of our land use ordinances in order to try and find these type of activities that shelter traffickers. And we started down that path. We had the legislature said that they were going to put up something that was going to be better in order to make sure that some of these organizations, some of these places where they have traffickers would be able to be closed. We decided to stave off it for that time being. And the legislature did pass a law, but it did not do enough to actually control what was going on in some of these facilities. So over the last 6 months, we've come back to look at the business use. The business use is really a key to this because this really has nothing to do with the workers themselves in that facility. All it does is say that they have to be regulated in a certain way in order to eliminate those folks that are providing sexual favors in a facility, essentially acting as a brothel. And I think that this is the first step for our diligence for the future. We cannot sit here and say that this is going to solve all the problems about either prostitution or human trafficking. We all know that. We're all adults. We understand that this is something that was going to be a constant for all of us to make sure we're vigilant. But I do think it is a very unique way of attacking it because now those businesses that are operating have to become regulated. They have to come to us in order to be inspected. They have to have certain things that they have to do before they can provide any kind of spa service. And to me, that is really the key. If we keep looking at this in terms of what a sex worker does, and let's face it, I will tell you, we have no right and no power to decriminalize any kind of prostitution in this state. The legislature has that power. We cannot do that. And because of some of the discussions, and I wish that a lot of the folks that were here didn't leave, because I wanted them to know that we don't have that power. They may be looking at what happened with some marijuana possession. That was allowed under state law for us to go ahead and decriminalize a certain amounts of marijuana possession. We don't have that power here. So to me, this is the best type of consensus that we can come up with to make it harder for people that are having folks from other countries or other states, and they've been trafficked here, and to make sure that they don't do it again. For us, this is the start. It's not the end. And I think that all of us know that we're going to continue to be vigilant, especially the people that have come up to talk in favor of this. And I want you to know that this council, myself and everyone else included, are going to continue to be vigilant to make sure that this works and that it captures those folks that are doing illicit activity specifically on trafficking, but it's going to capture some other things. And in addition, to not victimize people that are there and have been victims of trafficking. That we continue to work with the state attorney, the public defenders, and the chief judge of Hillsborough County to look at diversion services, and hopefully we'll be able to solve this problem. So, Chair, I
Councilmember,
appreciate the time.
before
Yes.
you do that, I'll come to you to read the ordinance. Let me
That's
just
fine.
ask
No
before we
pleasure.
close the
My
hearing,
pleasure. Thank you.
if other council members want to make a brief comment or have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I again wanted to thank the survivors of these institutions that are here today. It takes a lot of courage to come out and speak publicly from your heart, so I salute you guys for that. I read in the Tampa Bay Times what many folks read from, I believe it was Ms. Divya Kumar's article, where there were allegations from some people of cultural bias in this ordinance. Nothing outrages me more, makes me want to holler, so to speak. When I look at the industry that we're seeking to better regulate here, it screams cultural bias. It screams not just malicious and violent sexism, it screams racism. Take a look at our culture and some of the jokes that a lot of people tell about this industry. What is that quote, "me love you long time"? What's that about? It's about Asian prostitutes, many of whom are being trafficked and whatnot. Take a look at a lot of the backgrounds of the women who are working in these institutions, whether it's in Miami, whether it's here, whether it's in New York City. Many of them are immigrants. Many of them are people like my family, Cubanos, who came here, made a 90-mile journey. Many of them are Mexicanos who came here seeking a better life, and they find anything but. So those allegations to me are very, very disturbing. I second 110% what my colleague Councilman Suarez said with regards to our holistic vision. This is not a punitive bill or ordinance. Whenever it comes to victims, we're looking to go after the purveyors of this evil, and I think we're doing it well here. We're taking a holistic vision. I'm very excited, and I commend Councilman Suarez for his idea with regards to a diversion court. We have a very successful veterans treatment court here in Hillsborough County with almost 100 mentors. I'd love to see something like that for the victims of this industry. People who are truly victims and need diversion and assistance in our renewal. So to me, this is part of a holistic vision where we go after the bad guys and we're looking to protect the victims. So I salute my colleagues. I salute Councilman Suarez again, and thank you very much.
Councilman Miranda, but before we do, can we have an additional 10 minutes to wrap up?
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo what my colleague, Councilmember Vieira just said. And, I've been here on and off since the 70s, 74 to be exact. And I remember the neighborhoods. I remember working when I think was in Captain Smith under Police Chief Otero and different other chiefs under the Mayor Poe administration. And we did, at that time, was peep shows. That's what they started with. And then it went to other things. And then there was a 6-foot rule that Mayor Buckhorn started. And the Bathhouse ordinance, we had one before, I believe. It was called something else maybe. But these things, like Councilman Suarez says, you can start, you can work hard, but you got to continue working because it will get away from you once you slip up. And it goes back to most of these things. In most leases you have in that lease, when you rent properties, there's certain things that you can do and certain things that you cannot do. And I'm sure that if these things are not in those leases today, they will be tomorrow, because they should be incorporated into the lease of that office, room, house, building, whatever it is, so that the proprietor of that building is also held responsible once he or she are notified. Because some things happen that you may be an owner of a property and you may not know. But once they're notified, it's up to them to act. And so I applaud council members, I applaud the neighborhood, but I especially applaud the lady that Councilmember Vieira talked about. It takes a lot of courage to come here and have cameras staring at you and you to say what she said. And I applaud her with all my heart. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me just say this before we close the hearing and go back to Councilman Suarez to finish this out. First of all, I have to say that when people get up in public comment and oppose something we're doing and then walk out before they even hear us talk about the item, it's really highly disrespectful, considering that one of the big complaints that was made was somehow that we rushed this through without having enough discussion. So I want to put that on the record because I think it's meaningful. It is very important sometimes in life not to throw out the good for the sake of the perfect. Every ordinance that we pass here that attempts to address difficult problems is going to have to be tweaked. It may have to be revised in the future in order to particularly target what it is we're trying to affect. I have heard a lot of the complaints about some of the provisions of this bill, and I think that it's possible that we may need to come back and make some changes to it later. Maybe there'll be things we can do to strengthen it. But on balance, this is a 6-month effort that has involved conversations with many, many stakeholders in this community, and it has involved outreach to literally hundreds of people. And people have come to workshop after workshop and to hearing after hearing in order to be heard on this complicated issue. And that is the thing. It is a complicated issue. If it were easy to solve the human trafficking problem, somebody would have done it by now, believe me. If it were easy, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. But our legal staff came up with a novel way to take a crack at this and to try to do the best that we can to clean up, in this case, an industry that is not just putting a blight on the city's reputation, but really has the possibility of putting a blight on the national reputation if we don't really get a hold of it. And I think that what we're doing is a good faith effort. I think that it is going to tighten up an industry that deserves and warrants a little bit more attention. And perhaps the next time that people want to quibble with the direction we're going, they'll at least give us the benefit of engaging in the dialogue rather than saying their piece and storming out of the room. So with that said, unless there are any other comments from council members, I'd like to ask, first if we can close the hearing, and then we'll go to Councilman Suarez to read the ordinance.
Second.
So we have a motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Suarez. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Councilman Suarez, could you please take item number 71?
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone that attended this hearing after our 6 months of trying to get this right. I think we've got something that is pretty close, and I appreciate your vigilance. And Ms. Hernandez, you're not going to believe this, but I met someone that had your book, who is a 30-year friend of mine, and she gave it to me just a couple weeks ago. I haven't read it yet, but I did get a copy of your book. When I mentioned your name, she said, I have her book. So I just wanted you to know that your influences go beyond just what we're doing here today. I present an ordinance a substitute ordinance for first reading consideration, an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, relating to bathhouses, making revisions to City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 6, Business Regulation, amending Section 6-4 definitions, deleting Section 6-40 through 6-46, amending Section 6-47 through 6-65, reserved, amending Division 4, bathhouses, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Suarez, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carried with Capeen and Reddick being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be on January 11th, 2018 at 9:30 a.m.
Madam Clerk, thank you very much. All right, we are going to adjourn now, and we will be back at 2:30, and we will take up business at item number 70.